Hey, everybody, thanks for joining me for another exciting podcast. And I don't know why, Beata, I got to slow myself down. Every time I hit record, this energy comes within me. So let me slow down. Welcome, everyone, to another exciting podcast and conversation with Ramon Ray, publisher of zoneofgenius.com and newly bwcdaily.com. I'm an entrepreneur, five-time entrepreneur. In fact, sold 3 companies, written 5 books and more. You can get to know me better at ramonray.com or zoneofgenius.com. Here I am with a relatively new friend that I met in Houston at a small business conference. And when I heard what she did, I think I have her card somewhere over here on my desk. I was like, oh, this is a cool business. I'd love to know more about it. What are the successes? What are the challenges and how it's growing? But Beata, welcome. Thanks for being here with me. And feel free to give us your full name and the name of your business before we jump in and the website.
So I am Dr. Beata Lerman. I am an immunologist. My business is not in the medical profession, though. I make elite artisan chocolate, and the company name is Sinless Treats. And my current website is www.sinlessdesserts.com, sinless as of guilt-free. That's because it's sugar-free.
I love it. I love it. So Dr. Beata, again, thanks for being with us today. I really appreciate your time. Let's feel free, whatever you like, but let's start about where you were. Where were you before you were Dr. Beata? Or no, that's part of the story. But before you were the owner of Sinless Treats, let me get the name right. Yeah, Sinless Desserts, excuse me. Before you were the owner of Sinless Desserts, talk about that journey which brought you here today, but, meaning being a chocolatier, what brought you to that point? Feel free to share with us.
So, I am a classically trained immunologist and immune oncologist. That means that during my time in biomedical research development, medical science liaison, consulting, and coordinating and advising clinical trials, I was mostly focused on health, the cancers, and activation of immune system. And all of us know what happened 2 years ago in 2020. COVID-19 became a global pandemic, and literally all brains, all hands on deck were thrown onto solving that problem. It's easy to look back right now and say, something was not done optimally and we could have done some things differently. But when we were in it, we had very little resources, and scientists like me, we were reading everything that was out there and advising and giving advice. Some of it was good. Some of that was thrown out of the window. But basically, a lot of people got burnt out during that time. And that happens to me. It was very real. It was very stressful. And I have a husband and a small child. My daughter is 5 years old now, but she was 3 at the time. And my husband basically told me, you don't look very happy right now. You look very stressed. If you want to get out, I'll support you and you'll just find something else to do. And I took him up on that. Like hundreds of other medical professionals, I exited the field that I've spent 23 years in the United States being a part of.
Wow.
And I started to think, what would the next steps be? And people who know me know that I'm a very avid advocate for oceans and for marine life, and I'm an underwater photographer in my free time. And everybody expected that I would open an underwater photography school and be a part of.
You have to pause a minute. Immunology and being a doctor, underwater photography, and I know we're going to get to you being a baker and more. You're like a ninja. I mean, you got to pause on that. I mean, that's like somebody saying, oh, in my spare time, I go mountain climbing. I mean, that's like, wait a minute. Normal people don't do all that. Continue, please. That's amazing.
Well, because this is part of the story, because everybody expected this announcement that we're going to have a new underwater photography school, which we don't have in Houston. And at the same time, I didn't feel right about that, but I love cooking. I love baking. And during my time advising the COVID vaccine trial, I started getting into making chocolate, and it was my outlet. And surprisingly to me, my chocolate was good. And my friends started to tell me half jokingly that I should open a company. And so when my husband supported me exiting the field, I said, well, I will open a chocolate factory. And everybody was shocked. Nobody expected that. And I remember writing a post on Facebook that after 23 years in biomedical industry, I am taking a new chapter in my life, and it's going to be a chocolate shop. And people said, wait, what? When did this happen? And I said, well, this is actually a surprise to myself as well. But we are a year and a half into it, and we've built a factory, and we make the world's most unique chocolate.
I love it.
I was an inventor before. I actually, when I was at MD Anderson Cancer Center, I invented a new molecule, a therapeutic that is being used to treat cancer in people right now. And I stayed an inventor. So I'm a CEO, but I really see myself as somebody who thinks up of things that weren't there before.
I think that I know the feeling because I, as an entrepreneur myself, my mind's always inventing. Talk about a bit the correlation between being a doctor, especially being in immunology, being an underwater photographer, and being a business owner. Are there any correlations? And educate us a bit. For me, so you are the people who look at a microscope and you have that little glass thing and you go like this for 10 hours a day. You sit in the chair and roll it around in a lab. You know, that's just all day long. That's what I think. They just go like this. They look at a microscope and do that for 10 hours and they go home. I'm teasing. But that's
exactly what we do for about 70% of time. Yes.
Okay.
That's accurate.
But tell us about the correlation. I'm sure it's different, but tell us about the correlation between your years of experience in being a doctor in the body and germs and vaccines and all these things, high level, that. And then is there any correlation between being underwater and then maybe being an entrepreneur? And my intuition is there's challenges in all three. There's plans in all three, protocols, but you tell me, are there any similarities that you learned that can cross?
Oh, absolutely. And actually the amount of transferable skills are immense. So when you're in the lab and you're always in this trial and error phase and, for months at a time, an experiment is not working, you can choose to give up and walk away and, say that, I can't do it. Or you can choose to say, I'm going to be working on it until it is a success. You internalize the failure, you get okay, you get comfortable being uncomfortable all the time, you get comfortable with other peers criticizing and, giving you advice, and you discern between good advice and not so good advice. And this is actually exactly like things are in business, because when you're starting off, and I think Ramon, you can echo that as well, starting 5 businesses yourself, things are not smooth in the beginning. And most businesses we know fail within their first year. What happened? Bad practices, maybe unoptimal management, maybe, too much spending. All of those things. In science, we have budgets. We apply for grants. We know how much money we have. We know exactly that all of our consumables and man hours and, equipment has to come from that budget. And there is no money beyond that. It's the same thing in business. You're starting a business, you have a small starting capital, and maybe some people have a big starting capital. I hope I didn't. And you have to be very strategic. From my hobbies, it's the same thing. You understand when you start doing something difficult, like underwater photography, something unconventional. First of all, very few people in the world do it.
Right.
So things are, the techniques, many of them has to be perfected over time. You go multiple times, you spend money traveling, you go into uncomfortable, weightless environment, and then you're trying to take spectacular pictures. And I guess the first few years I was doing that, it was mostly fishtails. And now I'm occasionally winning photography competitions, which make me very happy, or I place in the finals. What I guess I want to say, everything takes time. You have to allow yourself as a business owner to say, I understand things are not going to happen smoothly in the first year, maybe first couple of years. But as long as, personally for me, I go every day and I learn something new every day and I work on a technique every day, then the next day it's already easier. It's the next thing. So absolutely, you can find inspiration and transferable skills in anything. I would imagine, like, even if people just like to read books, if they have that ideation, just they could transfer that hobby into getting the ideas and doing the research for the business that they're running.
No, that is so true and powerful. In fact, talking about books, I have those who are listening, a best list of books for small business owners at zoneofgenius.com/best books. And I have my bookshelf right here, a few books hidden out of view. There's one little book by Seth Godin, a marketing book there. So, but you're right. I think the skills, it's amazing, is very transferable. And I think those of us who've started several businesses, you've done 3 or more careers. I've only been in one career, but in small business. But I think the principles are the same. It's not, as my friend Kim says, it's math, not magic, meaning things can happen outside of our control. But I'm guessing, being a scientist, photographer, and business, there are systems that I check my this, check my this, check my this, and pretty much you'll be okay. That's when you deviate, things can go wrong. So I think that's powerful. Let's talk about this business right here. Feel free to dive into the Sinless Desserts business. Let's talk about that a bit. I know you told me a bit how it started, but feel free to go deeper into maybe how it came a year and a half to today. What are some of the challenges you went through, difficulties, and then what it's like today? Feel free to tell us that story a bit.
Well, it's actually really funny. I think you will find it amusing. When I started making chocolate, maybe I'll go back. So sure. I have a 5-year-old right now who was 3 at the time when I started. And one day she brought Hershey's candies from daycare. And we are all like, eat very healthy. We are on a low carb kind of lifestyle. All of us, not necessarily the baby, but sure. We don't eat any processed foods. We cook at home, so. And by the way, very, very health centered.
Beata, I want to tell you that you look very healthy and you represent your life very well. So I can see that just.
Thank you, and that's what I want. It's pointless to try to improve health, and this is the mission of my company. It's improving health. It's pointless to improve health and try to convince people to follow you if you don't look the suit. People have to see you and say, I want to look like that. I want to never go to a doctor. I want to invest in preventative, invest in myself, manage my stress, and be like at that high energy level, high vibration, spread the smiles, to have that resources. So I want to portray that. And thank you for noticing that. I really appreciate you truly. But so Dora is my daughter's name, okay. Like Dora the Explorer. And so Dora brought the Hershey's chocolate. And I looked at it and I said, not in my house. But we don't just take away candies from kids in our home. We negotiate and we talk and we teach to communicate. And so I thought, I need to come up with something that would be so amazing that she would be willing to trade those candies for something that would be healthier. And I didn't know 2 things about chocolate. So I thought, I have this little pineapple mold and I'm going to make her a pineapple shaped chocolate and I'm going to trade those unhealthy Hershey's from her. And so I take this little bit of white chocolate I had laying around and I took the food coloring, the normal food coloring. And I'm trying to color the green, the chocolate, the green part, yeah. And then make the little white dots and the dark chocolate, the dark pineapple body. And the chocolate just started to curl, and it became kind of like a cottage cheese. And I said, wow, that's weird. Like, this is just coloring. Why is it doing that? Of course, I didn't know at the time that you cannot mix chocolate and water-based anything, because this is exactly what it would do. But, long story short, I molded that first failed chocolate attempt. And my daughter they did look good. She did trade me, and she took one bite, and she's like, no more. And
that was your test.
I was like, yeah. And I was like, well, that didn't go well. But the scientist in me was like, but why didn't it go well? And so I went, because researchers, the best thing we do in life is we research.
Yes.
And I went and I read everything there was to know about chocolate. Like, I had so many discoveries that time frame. I realized that chocolate has a crystal structure, and that glossy and snappiness come from that crystal structure that comes from the cocoa butter arranging itself in a specific manner. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. I had no idea. But I was like, there is, we don't have refined sugar at home, so we don't really want to start having that. And I said, well, a crazy idea, but what if I try to make a chocolate that would be sweetened with something other than sugar? Because I was on strict ketogenic diet at the time. I would say lifestyle, because diet is not the right word for it. And I thought, there are really no sweets that I can eat without guilt and would be clean and compliant with the health regimen. And I thought, what if I invented that just for me, just so we could eat it at home? And so, because I have a passion for all things beautiful, I didn't want to just make the chocolatey color. I started to experiment by taking a vegetable powders and mixing it with cacao butter and like making my own coloring, which would be healthy, would not be chemical coloring. And I have it all in pictures, just the evolution of my chocolate. Wow. From those little pineapples that are hilarious to me to look at now. And so I continued, and every day I learned something new, and I tried something new, and this technique and that technique. And I started to look into, are there commercially available, natural colorings? And then I realized there wasn't any. So I started to make my own colorings, but just like real bright colors. And before long, I found myself to start investing in small machinery to take the cacao beans, not already like cacao, like chocolate made by someone else. And I started learning how to turn the beans into chocolate. And then I started to learn about the process of the beans that, I don't know if you knew, Ramon, but chocolate is a fermented food. So that's something that's really good for our health if it's done right.
Wow. I didn't know this at all.
Frozen. No. Do I still have you? Okay, great.
Little frozen on my end too, but it'll come back in a bit. It's a little frozen.
Okay.
We'll give it 10 seconds.
So if it's done right, it is a fantastic thing for our entire body, for our mind, for our heart health, for our mental health, for the neural system. Like, there is so many things that the chocolate can do, but it all just cancels out when we add like processed ingredients and lecithins and thinners and hydrogenated oils, and of course sugar. And so when I started to learn all of that, then I started to elevate. It's like, well, where does the cacao grow? So the next time we went to South America, because we travel a lot and we love to travel, and our daughter learns by experiencing different cultures and people, and it's just great. So we went onto a cacao farm and I started asking a lot of questions and they were very kind to teach me. And so slowly but surely I was gathering an immense wealth of knowledge to create a product that would be both luxurious and healthy. Mm. And this is where I am today.
I love this.
So today I have actually employees working for me, and I have I even have a salesperson working for me, and it was crazy to me that I'm paying somebody's salary. Yes. Because this is my first business. Probably would be my last too, because I don't intend of ever selling it. But yeah, it's been a long road, but I'm looking back at it and it was such a fantastic experience. It wasn't always smooth, but neither was a time in the lab or in the industry. Like yes. Things always happen. You just have to not give up, not hang your hands, and turn lemons into lemonade occasionally.
I love it. And I will tell you the part about selling it, I'll give you my opinion unsolicited. Since you've been in the business 1.5 years, and since you've said it's your first, my bet is that you haven't yet been given the right number to at least consider selling it. But once somebody approaches you and gives you the right number, I'm not saying you will, but I have a 90% you will at least go, let me think about it. I promise you that. Trust me.
Well, let me tell you why I wouldn't.
Okay.
The mission of my company is to change health worldwide. As a healthcare professional, I still work with individuals and governments on the issue of solving the diabetes epidemics all over the world. There's actually a real health emergency. And so, for example, there is an opportunity to work with small island nations through my other company. So actually, I said I have one. I actually have two. I have two companies, but they started at the same time. Yes. And so one of them makes elite artisan chocolate, and the other one makes the incredible health supplements from the microgreens. Okay. Microgreens is the baby plants.
I love that. That's a whole nother, so you're a double entrepreneur. Come on now.
Yeah. Sometimes I question my life choices, but other times it's exhilarating. And, the reason why I would never sell the company is because if I sell it, my mission will die with it or may die with it.
Beata, I'm still telling you. So? I'm still telling you. 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, once you're given the right amount, I'm not saying you will sell it, but I guarantee you at least think about it. That I promise you. That's
all my right. Bet. Well, maybe we'll have that conversation.
I'm not saying you will. So everybody's hearing the bet. I'm not saying you will, but like now you're saying I will never. I promise with the right amount, you'll say, let me consider, because with that check, you may be able to make a bigger impact. You just never know. So anyways.
I was very lucky in my experience in biotech world to work for a Canadian biotech company called Stem Cell Technologies. And I was with them for 5 years. And it's a privately owned mid-sized global company that was started by one guy, and he's owned it for 50 years, never went public, never traded, but he created an environment where people were just happy and being a part of that. So, if you ever would hear a person who would say, I love my job, and every day I was grateful to be there and be part of that culture, and all of the management were like super encouraging and uplifting. It was just something else. And so when I was building Sinless Treats, and I'm continue to build it, that's the culture I want to have here. And, I really, maybe, somebody came to Alan, who is the owner of Stem Cell Technologies, and offered him that check. Sure. But he didn't cave.
I totally understand. I totally get. You hear me, so I know you do. I just, and you may not, but I hear that with many entrepreneurs. I'll never sell, but it's only, and maybe you won't, but the principle I'm sharing, oftentimes they just, They're starting out.
Absolutely. And there is right time. There is right price, and the decision is there.
Yeah.
And people should think about it. Sure. I think it should go into the basis of how you see your company when you think sure. about the business plan. Like, where do I see myself in 5 years and 10 years? Like, I would get to that valuation, and after that, if the check comes with the number greater or equal to this, absolutely, people should take it.
No, I understand.
I'm just saying that I think the world is ready for the change, and the world is ready not for kind of sugar-free, because I've tried them. I've tried like the $5 a piece sugar-free truffles, which I would just have one bite and not be able to finish anymore.
No, I totally understand.
This is not what we're doing.
Yes.
My goal and the result was to make a sugar-free treat, which would yes. taste exactly the same as the conventional counterpart.
I love it. And I think you've done, I'm guessing you've done a good job, but let's move towards one thing. Let's talk about some of since you're still in a year and a half or so out, I'm guessing, I could be wrong, but I'm guessing you're still in the growth stage. You're still figuring some things out, but okay, good. So I'm correct. So tell me, curious, how many total team members do you have? But my real question, can you talk a bit about what you're doing with marketing? What are you doing with sales? What are you doing with hiring? Talk to us about some of the structure of the business. And if you don't mind, what are some challenges? What not what keeps you up at night? Maybe it's not that big, but just some things that you're Ramon. Here's what we're still figuring out. Talk about that a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's all great questions. Let's take them one by one. Sure. So I'm absolutely in the growth stage. So, I just 2 weeks ago, I came up with the whole new collection because I paid the marketology company to do a marketing analysis of what would market bear for an exclusive gift like that. And the number they came back to me with after running different experiments in economics for a month was that the luxury collection, what I call it now, that used to be the only one collection, 28 flavors, my original flavors that I had, was cost prohibitive to normal consumers. And the way I solved that problem is I made another collection, a premier collection, that would be a lot more consumer price for an everyday use and less of an exclusive gift. Because my original business idea was to solve the pain of finding perfect gift for the holidays, events, and occasions. Because every time there is like a big firm closing some very important deal, they want to celebrate, they want to like congratulate, and it's like pulling the nails with the pliers of finding what it is that people would like, what would make everybody happy. And we do exclusively branded chocolates, so we can take the logos and put them on the chocolates. We can put them on the boxes. We can really make it personal. Like if there is a merger, we can make like chocolate with double logos together. And who doesn't love chocolate? I mean, that's how we met, right? You heard me saying chocolate to somebody else, and you said, "I heard chocolate."
That's right. That's right.
So I think that in the time when we were so divided on so many things, chocolate can be something that brings people together, gives them a smile, and also makes it guilt-free. So, after that, after I realized how much we should really charge for that luxury collection, I had to very quickly pivot to not take away from the people who are my customers and enjoy it every day. And very much growth mode. So we have to do all the photography for the new collection all over again. And we had to create the new catalog all over again. That's still in the making because my graphic designer just got the pictures from me for that catalog. So first thing that I did, and I was very lucky, is I realized I can't do it all by myself, and somebody has to make the product while I'm in the meetings and promoting business and
while you're on
podcast
events. With Ramon
and
Ray.
Oh, absolutely. And I hired a wonderful girl. I got to know about her by accident, but she had 22 years experience working with chocolate. And she was, what I've heard, to be mistreated and underpaid in a different factory. And I asked a mutual friend to introduce us. And I offered her to be paid quite a bit more than she was being paid. And I offered her other benefits, but very quickly I realized how much of an asset she is. Yes. And the company is never a founder. It's never one person. The company is the team, and the team has to be organic. It has to be able to work together. It has to be able to communicate. And so she had, my first employee, had very good work ethics, and she came in and she learned all of my processes and got them down to the T, and just started being my second pair of hands. And it freed up my hands to do a lot of other things. So the next thing that I realized I needed desperately is sales and marketing. And so I've hired a salesperson who is responsible for a lot right now, but we're a small company. And there are some things that I had to outsource. So when we talk about challenges, one thing I found, and I guess it's the walk that every entrepreneur walks, is a lot of people are unreliable. And you would be introduced to people by your friends and say, oh, this guy does a great marketing. And you will find that sometimes referrals will not do a great job like they had with the person recommending. It's the relationship is never the same. And like one person's experience may not be your experience. And so I'm on the fourth marketing team at this point, because I have had experience when I would pay for like visual posts and promotion, things like that. And they would gladly take my money. And then 2 months later, there is not a single post. And you tell them, well, where's the deliverables? We had SMART goals. We had specific, achievable, timely, measurable goals. And they'll be like, they will try to turn it on you and make you a problem, like you are the reason why they haven't done it. And I think that that's the part of growing tougher skin. You have to not blame yourself. You have to accept failure, actually embrace failure, and say, okay, this was a bad decision, but it's one decision. It's one in the millions of decisions and hundreds that we take every day, but millions overall. And I'm just going to cut this. If I can recover losses, great. If I can't, energy and time and being mad at something or yourself, it's also losses. So you need to cut your losses right there. So I practice that. I'm like, yeah. So I was approached by Alibaba US. This is one of the story that's very prominent to me right now. I paid them $3,500 to become what they promised to be a B2B platform. And they said, we will put you up front to this many businesses. The other businesses will be ordering from you. So I paid that money. They've never done anything that they've outlined the contract. They did not post my product. They did not find me marketing qualifying leads. And, now I'm asking for the refund because nothing was done and they don't want to give you money back. And it's very likely that I would just have to bury it and say, I thought it was a good idea. It turned out to be a bad idea. Next time, it's going to be different. Next time, I'm going to say, you give something up front and then I pay half of it, and in the end, I pay the other half. Like the negotiation part is still very much there.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. I think that, Beata, from what you've said, I talk to a lot of business owners, and I feel like I talk to you for the next 3 hours. You are probably one of the smartest entrepreneurs, and I shouldn't say it like that, but just talking to you is just amazing. I feel like you're an encyclopedia of knowledge and an encyclopedia of experience, and I can hear the kindness but toughness in your voice. And I think that one thing that may have helped, again, I interview hundreds, thousands of business owners, it seems, but I do think you have an edge because of your tripled experience or more. Being a photographer underwater, I just feel it's given you something. I don't know what. My feeling. Being a scientist, I think, and all the experience, I'm sure we could talk for hours about that career, right? This is only a 40-minute, 1-hour interview. And then being an entrepreneur. And so I think your learning curve has been quick. So what haven't I asked you that you think would be of use to the Zone of Genius audience? I feel I could talk all day. But one thing I do want to ask, let me add this into there. At Zone of Genius, we talk about living a fulfilled life. That at some point, the hustle, the grind of entrepreneurship, for some of us, it may never be over. I'm always going to be a business owner, always ideas, always risking. That's what I enjoy. But I do think at some point it should get easier, or we should focus on family, giving back, giving money to others, as I'm sure you already do. And thank you for allowing me to ask you 100 questions in one breath. Thank you. But my point being, talk about the aspect of living life fulfilled. You're an entrepreneur, you have a family, but I'm sure at some point, and you may be living that a bit now, that you may want to transition or do things different. If you understood my whole big question, living life fulfilled, that's the main question.
So thank you. It's a wonderful question. And maybe what I'm going to tell to you is going to be surprising. My husband doesn't like this answer, but I always say there is a lot more to life than work.
Yes.
And this is how I treat my employees as well. If my employee says, my son is sick, or there is something that I need to do, can I take a day off? And I say, absolutely. Because work, it will always be here. It's here now, it will be here tomorrow. The world will not end if we don't get it today. If we communicate with our clients, if we manage the expectation, we'll always build in that edge to take the stress off. That's my approach. But, for me, and I'm a mom and a wife, and I like to do other things. Business is actually, it's funny now that you thought, and I'm thinking of business as another child. And
Yes.
When I had my child, the real child, everybody said, oh, your traveling days are over, and it turned out not to be. And so people said, oh, now you're honed in here and you will never leave, and all of this, and you will never. And I said, no, it doesn't have to be that way. So I feel like your business is your game, and your game is your rules. And as long as you make those rules clear, people will go along with it because they wouldn't know anything else. So if I wanted to build in 3 trips a year where I would take 10 days and go scuba diving, I would build them in. Maybe I will include some work. I would visit cacao farms. I will go to places where my suppliers are. I would make connections. I would further our relationship. But when the busy part is over, I'm in the water. I'm with my daughter. My daughter learned to snorkel about 6 months ago. So now we have amazing time. I show her the fish. She's seen octopus like swimming around her, like with her eyes. She saw whale sharks. She's 5. So I would never rob her of that experience. I always take the time to be there when she goes to bed. I give her a hug. She goes to a school where parents are allowed to visit. And so every 2 weeks, I build in the day where I am in her school, in her presence, being with other parents were there that day. The business is not your life. It's a part of it, and it will take as much as you will give it. But like a disease, it can also take as much of your resources and your body as you give it. But when you say, no, I'm going to take this medicine, and rest is medicine, because if we don't rest as entrepreneurs, we burn out and we become less effective. So to me, it's easier to build that 3 trips and take 30 days overall off and come back, and I'll be energized and I can move mountains. And it's like, let's create all of these amazing things and make this idea happen, rather than just be in this circle on years on end. And then one day I wake up and think, what is it that I'm doing with my life? So if I can leave you with one message, whatever it is that you're doing, it's your business, your game, your rules. Make your boundaries, outline them, communicate them. Nobody's going to be mad at you. I promise you that.
Beata, that was said so beautifully. Once I have an awards program, I have to fly you to New York and give you an award, like the Zone of Genius Awards. That was amazing. And I think that for me, Beata, my kids are older, but I've had, of course, kids as kids, little kids. And that was one of the best times as being an entrepreneur, meaning I enjoy all of life. But one of the best mixes is when I can fly somewhere, stay in a high-end resort. Those who can't, that's you. But meaning for me, do something really cool with my money, what I want to do, and get paid and bring my family with me. I mean, because people say, Ramon, are you taking off or do you have to work today? As you said about rules, I work for myself. So yes, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, I'm determined I'm going to work all day. Heads down to the office, stale coffee. But you know what? For 3 weeks, I may do absolutely nothing or visit a client. So meaning I'm echoing what you said, taking my family with me. We're in a great hotel, great restaurant. Dad, when my kids were smaller, is speaking on stage and being paid a good fee. And I'm doing business, my rules. So I echo exactly what you said. Beata, one more time, give us your full name, the best website where we can buy some of those amazing desserts from you. Give us your full name and your website again.
So Dr. Beata Lerman, and the website currently is www.sinlessdesserts.com. In 2 weeks, we're redesigning the website. That's part of the growth. So in 2 weeks, there would be new website with all of the new collections, with chocolate figurines, with chocolate edible bouquets and assemblies. That would be sinlesstreatsusa.com. And I want to stress that everything that we do, every ingredient that go into our chocolate, we make here in the US, in our factory, in the heart of Houston, Texas. And we're so proud for that.
I love it. Dr. Beata, thank you for being with us today. Again, everybody, my name is Ramon Ray. Go to the website and get those chocolates and more. I'm Ramon Ray, publisher of zoneofgenius.com, where you can find amazing interviews like this all the time. Check it out. Sign up for our email newsletter at zoneofgenius.com. And again, I'm Ramon Ray, and Dr. Beata, thanks for being with us today as I look forward to finding the stop